The expensive china clinked against itself as my mother aggressively served dinner, her disappointment radiating across our family's massive dining room. Another mandatory Sunday dinner at the Anderson family mansion, another round of subtle and not-so-subtle jabs about my career choices. "Sarah, darling," Mom said, her perfectly manicured hands gesturing toward my simple blazer, "couldn't you at least dress properly for family dinner? You work at that little consulting firm of yours, not a fast food restaurant." I smoothed down my blazer, which probably cost more than her entire outfit, though she'd never know that. "I came straight from a client meeting, Mom." "A client?" Dad scoffed from the head of the table, barely looking up from his phone. "Is that what you call small business owners who can't afford real consultants?" I bit my tongue and took a sip of water. If they only knew that my little consulting firm had just closed a deal with one of the largest tech companies in Asia. But I'd learned long ago to keep my success quiet. Let them think what they wanted. "Anderson Industries had another record quarter," Mom announced proudly. "The board is so pleased with your father's leadership." Dad finally put his phone down, puffing up with pride. "We're expanding into the European market next month. That's what a real business looks like, Sarah. Not this small-time consulting nonsense you insist on pursuing." I nodded, pushing my food around the plate. I'd seen Anderson Industries' real numbers. My position as a small-time consultant gave me access to more financial data than they could imagine. Their European expansion was built on loans they couldn't afford, and their record quarter was all creative accounting. "When are you going to grow up and join the family business?" Mom pressed. "You're 30 now. This rebellious phase needs to end." "I'm doing fine on my own, Mom." "Fine." She laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "You live in a rented apartment while your cousins all have summer homes. You drive a Honda while everyone else in this family has a proper luxury car. You're such a disappointment." Dad cleared his throat. "Your mother's right. We've been patient, but enough is enough. I'm offering you one last chance to come work for Anderson Industries. Vice president position starting immediately." I looked up from my plate. "And if I refuse?" "Then you're on your own," he stated flatly. "No more family dinners, no more connections, no more Anderson name to open doors for you." I stood up slowly, placing my napkin beside my barely touched plate. "Thank you for dinner. And for the offer. But I'll pass." "Sarah." Mom's voice rose. "Don't you dare walk away from this table. You're making a huge mistake," Dad warned. "You think your little consulting business can compare to what we've built?" I paused at the dining room door. "No, Dad. I don't think it compares at all." I smiled slightly. "By the way, how's the merger with European Continental going? The one you're counting on to cover your Q3 losses?" His face paled. "How did you know about Dash?" "Have a good evening," I cut him off, walking out of the mansion that had never really felt like home. As I drove away in my cheap Honda, my phone rang. It was James, my chief financial analyst. "Boss, you were right about Anderson Industries. Their European deal just fell through. Stock's going to plummet when the market opens tomorrow. And the other thing? Their creditors are calling in the loans early. They'll be bankrupt within 2 weeks unless they find a major investor." I smiled, thinking of my father's smug face. "Perfect. Begin phase 2. "You sure about this?" James asked. "They're still your family." "No," I replied, watching the mansion disappear in my rearview mirror. "They're just another failing company that needs saving. And I'm just the disappointment who's about to buy them out." I ended the call and pressed the accelerator, heading toward my penthouse office, the one my family didn't know existed. Tomorrow the real game would begin, and I couldn't wait to see their faces when they realized exactly what kind of disappointment they'd created. The headlines screamed across every financial news outlet. "Anderson Industries faces bankruptcy, European merger collapses, Anderson stock plummets 70% in single day." I watched from my real office, the entire top floor of downtown's most prestigious building, as chaos unfolded. My small consulting firm was actually the front for Phoenix Capital, one of the most secretive and successful investment firms in the country. Every move I'd made for the past 5 years had been calculated, including letting my family think I was a failure. "Miss Phoenix," my assistant Emma interrupted my thoughts. "Your father's here." I raised an eyebrow. "My father? How did he even find this place?" He's been to every major investment firm in the city today. We're his last hope, though he doesn't know it's you. I smoothed my designer suit. No more simple blazers today, and nodded. Send him in. The man who walked into my office was not the same proud CEO from Sunday dinner. His tie was loose, his hair disheveled, and his hands shook slightly as he clutched his briefcase. Welcome to Phoenix Capital, I said, staying seated behind my desk. I understand you're looking for investors. He stopped short, his face draining of color. Sarah? What is this? Please sit down, I gestured to the chair across from me. We have a lot to discuss. He sank into the chair, looking around my expansive office with its floor-to-ceiling windows and view of the entire city. You're Phoenix? The mysterious CEO everyone's been trying to meet. Surprised. I smiled. I thought I was just a disappointment working a small job. But how? While you and Mom were busy mocking my career choices, I was building this. I pressed a button, and the wall behind me transformed into a digital display showing my company's portfolio. Phoenix Capital currently manages $12 billion in assets. We specialize in turning around failing companies. I paused. Companies like Anderson Industries. He swallowed hard. The European deal was doomed from the start. Your books were cooked, Dad. Did you really think nobody would notice? We can explain. The unauthorized loans, the shell companies, the inflated quarterly reports. I pulled out a thick folder. I have everything documented here. The SEC would be very interested in this information. His face went from pale to ashen. You're going to report us? That depends on you. I leaned forward. Phoenix Capital is prepared to offer a bailout package. We'll cover all outstanding debts and inject fresh capital for legitimate expansion. But there are conditions. What conditions? First, you and the entire current board resign immediately. Second, all financial decisions will be overseen by our team. Third, I smiled, you'll have to interview for a position if you want to stay with the company. Interview? He sputtered. I built that company. And you nearly destroyed it through mismanagement and pride. I stood up, walking to the window. You have two options, Dad. Accept our offer, or I release this information to the SEC tomorrow morning. He was quiet for a long moment. Does your mother know about any of this? She's about to. She's in our lobby right now with the board members. They all came running to Phoenix Capital for salvation. As if on cue, Emma's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Anderson and the board have arrived for their 2 p.m. Perfect timing, I said. Send them in. The door opened and my mother's voice carried through before she saw me. We demand to speak with Mr. Phoenix immediately. We don't have time for She stopped dead when she saw me. Sarah. Hello, Mom. Board members. I nodded to the shell-shocked group. Please join us. We were just discussing the terms of your bailout. The next hour was a blur of shocked expressions, angry outbursts, and finally, quiet acceptance as they realized I held all the cards. One by one, they signed the agreements my lawyers had prepared. As they filed out, defeated and humbled, my mother lingered behind. All this time, she whispered, while we were calling you a disappointment. You never bothered to ask what I actually did, I finished for her. You never cared enough to look beyond your own assumptions. And now you own us. I shook my head. No, Mom. Now I'm going to teach you how to run a real business. 6 months after the takeover, I stood in the newly renovated headquarters of Anderson Phoenix Industries. The old-fashioned oak panels and outdated decor had been replaced with modern design and state-of-the-art technology. But the biggest changes weren't physical. My father sat in a middle manager's office, not the CEO suite he'd occupied for 20 years. After a grueling interview process, he'd barely qualified for a regional sales position. His first quarterly review was today. Come in, I called as he knocked on my office door. He entered, looking different than he had 6 months ago. The expensive suits were gone, replaced by business casual wear. He'd lost weight and the arrogant tilt of his chin had disappeared. Your quarterly numbers, I said, pulling up his performance metrics on my tablet. They're impressive. You've exceeded targets by 15%. Thank you, he replied quietly. I've been learning a lot from the sales training program. The same program you called unnecessary when I suggested it 3 years ago? He flushed. I was wrong about a lot of things. Yes, you were. I set down the tablet. How's Mom adjusting to her new role? After the takeover, my mother had been devastated to lose her social standing. No more charity board positions, no more country club presidencies. Instead, I'd assigned her to our community outreach program, working with small businesses, the same ones she'd once looked down on. She's different, he admitted. Yesterday, I found her crying over a thank you letter from a local bakery owner she helped secure financing for. I nodded. The mother who'd once mocked my small clients was now finding fulfillment in helping them succeed. And how are you, Dad? Really? He was quiet for a moment. Humbled. Every day I walk past the office that used to be mine, and I remember how close I came to destroying everything my father built. Then I see what you've done with the company. He shook his head. You were never the disappointment, Sarah. I was. Just then my assistant buzzed. Miss Phoenix, the Times reporter, is here for the interview. Send her in. I turned to my father. You can stay. You should hear this. The reporter entered, recorder in hand. Miss Phoenix, thank you for finally agreeing to tell your story. Youngest CEO on Fortune's 500, mysterious owner of Phoenix Capital, and now the woman who turned around Anderson Industries. Our readers are dying to know. How did it all start? I smiled, glancing at my father. Actually, it started with a disappointment. My family thought I was working at a small consulting firm, barely making ends meet. They never knew I was building an empire, learning from every small client, and watching as they made the same mistakes that sink most family businesses. Pride, complacency, and underestimating the wrong person. And now, your company's value has quadrupled, your innovative management style is being taught in business schools, and you've maintained complete anonymity until now. Why reveal yourself? Because success isn't just about proving people wrong, I replied. It's about showing them a better way. Every person in this company, from the janitor to the board members, has the same opportunity to prove themselves. Even my parents had to earn their positions. Speaking of which, the reporter turned to my father. Mr. Anderson, how does it feel working for your daughter? He straightened in his chair. It feels like justice, and the best learning experience of my life. After the reporter left, I handed my father an envelope. Your quarterly bonus. You earned it. He opened it, then stared at me in shock. This is more than I made as CEO. Because now you actually work for it, I said. By the way, there's a VP position opening in the European division. Real expansion this time, not fake numbers. You can apply if you're interested. Apply? Not just get appointed. You know how it works now, Dad. Everyone earns their place here. He stood, clutching the envelope. I'll start preparing my application tonight. At the door he paused. Sarah? Thank you. Not for the money or the job, but for showing me what a real leader looks like. After he left, I walked to my window wall, looking out at the city where I'd built my empire right under my family's noses. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. The bakery owner's daughter just got accepted to business school. We're celebrating with them tonight. Would you like to come? Not as the CEO, just as my daughter. I smiled, typing back. I'd love to. And Mom? Or something casual. Real success doesn't need designer labels. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying those who doubted you, but in transforming them into the people they should have been all along. My family had called me a disappointment, but I'd turned their disappointment into their salvation. And that was worth more than all the billions in my empire.